be a Clemson Tiger. But let's go ahead and move on to something that happened in Clemson, South Carolina today, Jordan, and that is Clemson Pro Day. I don't know if you know this, but all of our fine individuals that help contribute to the Tigers for the past few seasons are a lot of them are off to the NFL, whether they just decided to declare early or they ran out of eligibility. We had the Clemson Pro Day in Clemson, South Carolina today. I did not get to watch the entire thing. Obviously, watched some highlights after I got off work and tried to follow some of the stuff that happened, but wasn't able to watch it live, just because of work and things like that. But we had, some standout guys that really, made some good eye-popping things happen for themselves during the Clemson Pro Day. All 32 NFL teams were represented. Mike Tomlin was there. He's always coming into Clemson. Every time we have a pro day, Mike Tomlin seems to always be at Clemson. Him and Dabo Sweeney got a pretty good relationship there, and he's always in Tiger Town when it's time for pro day. XT ran a 4.55 40. He said in his interview that he wasn't exactly happy with that. He wanted a 4.4. Said that he had run that in training, but he keeps having these cramps. Says he just gets too amped up and excited, and I guess his legs lock up on him. So 4.45. Hey, guess what? I don't know about you, but that ain't too bad for a guy at his size, 6'2", 253 pounds, running a 4.55. I think that'll do. I don't know. I mean,
but that's XT, man. He's the competitor, and he really, just with everything he's been through, he's worked hard for that moment. So I get it. And when you feel like you left some meat on the bone, it can be frustrating, even if you had you did really, really well. It was really great to see him work out and kind of get that 40 time, down closer to where he felt like it should be. And he had a really strong day in general. So, that was really, really nice to see. And I think he's definitely been on the radar. And I think he's going to be a guy that eventually, I don't expect him to be a high, first, second round, pick. Maybe not even a day two guy. But I think whoever takes him is getting a steal, because especially when I watch some of the other edge rushers in this class, I'm like, not many of these guys are as twitched up and explosive as XT is. I think, just obviously the concerns, obviously he's, played 6 years and all of that, and the history, the injury history, and some of those struggles are definitely going to be knocks against him. But man, like I think he's going to be a really good football player. I think his best football is ahead of him. So really excited to see kind of where he ends up, because if he ends up in a really good situation that sees kind of his ability and his his skill set and how to really incorporate him into defense, I think he could be a really, really nice NFL player.
Yeah, he's going to be a good one, I think. And I mean, he's XT is one of my favorite Clemson players of all time. I love his story. I love his just, how he's really carried himself through all of the adversity that has happened to him. Some of it on him, some of it completely out of his control as far as the adversity that he's felt as a Clemson Tiger. But the way that he's carried himself through that and the growth that he's, seen through that is absolutely amazing. I like the tweet that he put out. He said, whatever organization gives me a chance or gives me a call in April, will be very, very happy they did. And I truly believe that. I mean, if somebody's going to give him a shot, and whoever does, that dude's he's going to work, he's going to give everything he got. He's going to absolutely leave it all out on the field. He's not going to shortchange anything. And I thought it was interesting in his interview, he talked about, how if he was a 3-and-done guy, he probably would have been a 2-and-done guy in the league. Just because he recognizes that he had a lot of growing up to do when he got to Clemson. And if it all would have went according to plan, he probably wouldn't have been ready for that situation that he would have been in the NFL. So I think it's really mature of him to recognize that and just kind of embrace the struggles that he's had in his career and be like, you know what? Yeah, I was supposed to be 3 and done, but I spent 6 years in college, and instead of being bitter about it and saying, crying about how things didn't go his way and some of it wasn't his fault and so on and so forth, and you can't control injuries. Instead of doing that, he embraces it, and he's a better player and a better person for it. So shout out to XT. Hope he gets an opportunity and a good situation with an NFL team.
Absolutely, and it was great to see him out there and working. Obviously, the other big standout from the pro day was definitely running back Will Shipley.
Man, he did it. He did it, didn't he?
Yeah, I think if any, I think of the guys that competed today, I think he helped his draft stock the most, mostly because he didn't work out at the combine. Right. I think that 40 time, that 4.39, I was, I think that definitely, shot him up some boards, because I really think, one of the big questions with him, they wanted to see him run, and kind of get that verified speed, and kind of see what it was, and there were some from a Clemson fan perspective, there were always questions like, from watching him, it's like, well, we didn't always see that in games and all that. But as a guy that watched him a ton in high school, I never thought his speed was in question. And so, over the years, at times where he didn't look quite as fast, I mean, you always had to wonder, like, I mean, I know for a fact that Will Shipley played hurt a lot over his 3 years at Clemson. Yeah. And, one of the things is, he's such he gets to his top speed really, really fast. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of one of the things that kind of made him look slower, is because he accelerated so quickly and got to his top speed. Like, it felt like he wasn't separating from guys, like, when you got farther down the field. Right. And, so he doesn't have the elite, it's really, really good speed. 4.39, that's a great speed for a running back. But it wasn't like, it's not the elite, it's not Nate Wiggins fast, for example. Right. And so he didn't have that top end speed, but he gets to his top speed so fast. And so it was really cool to see him. I felt like he was going to run a better time than a lot of people were expecting. I didn't expect 4.39, so don't get me wrong. But I expected a 4.4, and I think that he's obviously he ran track in high school, so obviously that helps. A lot of these guys that run track in high school, they know how to run the 40, and that and that definitely helps. But it was good to see that he can. It was important for him and his draft stock to kind of for teams to at least see some measure of how fast he actually is. And so that was a big deal. And if he gets into a good situation similar to XT, I think he's going to be a higher pick. Similar as far as I think he needs to be in a really good situation, like the right situation that utilizes his skill sets. But I think the NFL is moving towards, kind of his play style, as far as, they want their running backs to be all-purpose guys. And he has a lot of tape showing that, especially, the last couple of, and, his development as a pass catcher, I think was a big deal. And he's only played, I think he got a lot of tread on the tires, for a guy that played 3 seasons. So, from that perspective, declaring early might have helped him. Because maybe another year and you're kind of like, okay, well, he's got a lot of touches and he's played a lot of football, and you got to wonder how much wear on the tires there actually is. Right. So that's I think it was a big deal for him. And so the 39-inch vertical or 38.5-inch vertical, I don't think that was surprising to anybody at all.
Yeah. No, if you saw him play with pads and some of the crazy hurdles that he pulled out through his years of playing at Clemson, that 38.5-inch vertical should not have surprised anyone.
Yeah. That's where, like, when people would say that Will Shipley is not athletic, I'm like, what are you watching?
On, man.
Like, it's like being an athlete is more than just, I can run really fast. Like
Right.
Will Shipley is a physical like specimen, man. Like, and he's always been that way. And
he's
so
a
like,
and he's a football player. Like
yeah,
he's a football player. So some of these guys they can get out here like you mentioned, especially these track guys. These guys that ran track in high school, and they understand the technique and the exact things that you have to do to run a perfect 40. But it doesn't translate to the football field in any way because they're not football players. Will Shipley's athleticism and explosiveness absolutely translates to the football field. You can see it on his tape. So
absolutely. And so that's where I always like, man, it kind of goes back to the white running back, kind of stereotypes and stuff
yeah,
like that. And so I think that kind of played into it for sure, as far as some of the narratives about Shipley. But man, no, he's just a really high end athlete. He's great and a really good football player. So really excited to kind of see where he ends up. John Sarian says, for obvious reasons, Shipley always gets compared to McCaffrey. Any idea if that is fact? Yeah, I've always pushed back on he's not Christian McCaffrey. That's not
no.
Any all-purpose white running back gets compared to Christian McCaffrey, but
Right.
that's not really his play style. I think a more apt comp would probably be closer to Alvin Kamara. I think just the all-purpose, like, because he's not the Christian McCaffrey I think is very obviously a faster football player, like game speed, like definitely a faster football player. I think Alvin Kamara kind of fits more of Will Shipley, like the all-purpose, like they have really good speed, but the pass catching ability and kind of that reminds me more of Alvin Kamara than Christian McCaffrey. And so, but people like to make lazy comparisons. Fortunately, some of it is a race thing, but and it happens on both sides for different positions. So that's just kind of part of the reality of college football and not just college football, but the NFL draft and some of the discourse. People are really lazy when it comes to evaluation sometimes. So it's like, oh, I see white running back. Yeah. Oh man, next Christian McCaffrey. I'm like, no, that's not. He's not that kind of player.
The problem is a lot of them don't watch college football, so they don't really know these players too terribly much until they really start diving into their film and stuff like that. And they obviously
can tell. You go on NFL draft Twitter and you see some of the takes and you're like, what are you watching? I had a guy, I actually argued with a guy today on X that was telling me that about Xavier Thomas because his 40 time and stuff was kind of blowing up a little bit. And he's like, he can't rush the passer, but he can run fast, so the NFL is going to draft him. I'm
what? What do you mean he can't rush the passer?
And then he pulled up his sack totals, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you don't. Yeah. You don't know what you're talking about, man. And so it's NFL draft Twitter, and I love NFL draft season, and I'm always involved, and I think it's a lot of fun to kind of hear some of that stuff. But man, just some of the you can tell who really watches college football, like the ones that are they evaluate for the NFL, but they watch college football and they know and they watch these players on a regular, and they've been on their radar for a regular, and they're not just diving into their film, a month before the draft, like stuff like that. Like you can tell who really knows their stuff and who doesn't. And it's a lot of NFL draft Twitter does not watch college football, and it's very obvious.
It's a lot of lazy stuff. It's a lot of they get caught up into the draft or the combine and measurables and stuff like that, and they forget that how this dude look on the field? How did he play when he was on the field? And I understand the injury concerns about XT and stuff like that, but if you say he can't rush the passer, then you have no idea what you're talking about. That's just factually not true at all. That's just a false statement. But you know, it is what it is. But I think Will Shipley, man, he absolutely had an amazing day at the Clemson Pro Day. He proved I think a lot of the some of the doubters wrong. I think he kind of proved that yes, I do have the speed necessary. And then you just turn on the tape and you see how versatile he is as a back. It's just you got to love the guy. And then talking about some other guys and Rook and Tyler Davis and you know all those guys. We didn't, no wide receiver, no quarterback or anything like that. So it was kind of weird from that sense that there's no kind of skill position guys out there doing their thing. But I think overall it was a really good pro day, and hopefully most of these guys will get an opportunity. Obviously, they're not all going to be drafted, but you hope that they get some free agent type deals where they get to maybe get to be a part of a training camp and hopefully try to carve out a spot on a roster, whether that be special teams or whatever the case may be. But you gotta wish all these dudes the best. They gave all they had while they were here at Clemson, and now you as a Clemson fan, you hope that they have long successful careers in the NFL.
Absolutely. So best of luck to those guys. Shout out Jalen Phillips, Sheridan Jones, and those are the main guys that worked out as well. And you mentioned Tyler Davis, Rukaro, Jeremiah Trotter didn't get to work out. I was kind of bummed about that. But yeah. I think they said he's going to work out on the 19th. I don't remember some later date. He's going to have I think he's going to have a private workout. I see some people asking about it. Did Trotter run? No, yeah, he did not participate in drills today. Justin Maskell, thank you, go Tigers. He had a solid 40 time for his size too. Really, best of luck to those guys as they get their shot at the NFL. Because and it's the more guys that get drafted, it's always a feather in the cap for Clemson, and kind of another thing to show recruits. We'll see where these guys end up.
Yeah, absolutely. The more guys you have in the league, the better off your brand looks to recruits and future players that you're trying to get to come to your university. It's always a good thing seeing how many players that you put into the NFL, and that'll always be a big part of college football, because most of the players coming have those dreams and those aspirations of one day making it into the NFL. So shout out to all those dudes that worked out. Shout out to all the Clemson players that will hopefully be drafted, and if not, hopefully they make it on free agent contracts and carve out their little niche into the NFL and get paid for many years to come. And if not, wish them the best in the rest of whatever they have after football, whatever that may be. So